Verification that the meeting was properly posted.
Yes, it was.
Stacy, I figured as much. Next up is opportunity for citizens to speak. Do we have any citizens that would like to address the committee? Anybody? Nope. Moving on. For minute approval for the April 10th, 2018 meeting, I'll be looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes from April 10th as presented.
Thank you. And a second. Mr. Baumgartz. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, 4-0. Moving on to our Bright Lights, the play workshop. Who's up? Oh,
Whole
boy.
room.
Everybody's coming up.
That's awesome.
Welcome, ladies. It's good to see you all. Thanks for coming. That's a surprise. We better get to the chairman of the tech committee on that. Mr. Dietz.
Where it says topics.
But my display is not coming up.
Oh, smiley.
Do you have it?
I have it up.
Okay. Wait a minute, now mine's late, mine is now.
Down just a tad bit.
Could not connect. Here.
I mean, is that okay? Is that, she's got it. Okay. Teaching and okay. That's nice. I feel that.
There we go.
Yay.
Okay, that's it. I'm Laura Faust. I'm the administrator for early learning in the school district, and we're here to talk to you about Play Workshop. These are all 4K teachers that have implemented Play Workshop. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Nicole Zeroth. I teach 4K at Banting.
I'm Jennifer Mann. I teach 4K at Lowell.
I'm Alexis Pipia, and I teach 4K at Meadowbrook.
Allison Arrett, 4K at Hadfield.
Carrie Marino, 4K Hatfield.
Debbie Hembrook, Hawthorne Lab.
Lisa Marshall, dual language, 4K at Higher. Andrea Lorenz, Prairie.
I put out a call. I hope you can help me, and all of these people were willing and excited about coming in and sharing. So we're all here to share with you. So we all know that play is critical when you're young in teaching kids how to learn. We also know pre-academics. What we needed to do is find a format that could put the two together. And as a result, in honoring child's developmental progress, we've come up with Play Workshop, initiated by teacher interest in a book study that we had done. So what we're going to do right now is talk to you about how we incorporate social-emotional, teaching specific social-emotional skills to 4K children so that we can set a good, strong base for academic and future learning. And first, we're going to start with, with listening to the kids.
Ladies, what have you learned at playtime? Very good. Alina. Very nice. Emma. And last one, Treya. What did you learn at playtime?
So the kids are able to express what they've learned and what they liked about it. So next, the teachers are going to talk to you about the types of play and how they've incorporated that into their Play Workshop planner.
Right, so the first type of play is constructive play, and that is where the students are using materials throughout the whole classroom to build any kind of thing that they're able to. For example, there is a snowman, and they are using different problem-solving skills, math skills, figuring out which one's bigger, smaller, to create an actual snowman. We've also incorporated some of our literacy skills by using our Handwriting Without Tears curriculum pieces. On the bottom there, those are our wooden pieces, and they are creating letters, numbers, shapes, symbols, with different problem-solving skills.
And then they are also learning STEM skills, and they're learning how to invent, and they're just exploring with different materials, like Allison was saying. As you can see in the sensory bins that's in my classroom, they were working on creating and building a garden, and then they were using the pan balance to learn about mass and how to measure it. So they were learning different science concepts as well. And then really critical with constructive play is that they're learning to strengthen those, or they're strengthening those fine motor skills while they're also communicating and building.
Okay, and that leads us into fantasy or imaginative play. And in this type of play, students take on and act out roles. They might pretend that they're running a restaurant. My kids are just finishing building a zoo and taking characters in and going in and pretending that they're taking care of the animals. And it really gives them the opportunity to learn about themselves and the world. Kids get to learn to work out confusing or scary life issues that they might be encountering. Sometimes you'll see them reenacting that type of stuff. They also cultivate social and emotional awareness and intelligence, and it helps them develop complex higher order thinking. There is a connection between early reading and students who are able to engage in imaginative play, and students who struggle with this area of play sometimes struggle in other areas of the classroom too. So.
And in our classroom, it's focused, we teach solely in Spanish, and so for half of our children, the language of instruction is their second language. And, but we also know through research, oracy is a huge component of a child's learning, which is the ability to express oneself fluently and grammatically in speech. And so new vocabulary and concepts is super important, but even more important when they're learning a second language and everything is new and exciting. So through this, especially through the fantasy and imaginative play, it gives us teachers a tool to use to repeat things back to them, new concepts, new vocabulary, and for them to be able to express themselves while they're playing. And we'll be talking in a little bit about, we actually do mini lessons, and it's very focused, what we do during this playtime. And so we can take what we do in those mini lessons and really go in and learn and hear what those kids are actually doing in those areas with the new vocabulary and concepts. And it not only helps with the new vocabulary and concepts, but also helps with problem solving, which is something that's huge in 4K and beyond.
Okay, the third type of play is games with rules. This type of play is when students really just comply and stay within a set of rules. This type of play can include all sports, basketball, swimming, dance. This includes any video games, or what you're seeing here, they're doing different math games here, and the important skills that they're learning are resilience, negotiation, self-regulation. This is a good opportunity for them to practice their social strategies. And then probably most important, this is a good, safe place to practice failing or practice how to lose, which can be really hard for the very young and also for adults sometimes too. And so then that leads us to our fourth type of play.
Fourth type of play is my favorite type of play. With 16 boys in my classroom, we're talking rough and tumble play. It's a play that sometimes people will want to shy away from, but it's a play that in our research is really focused on movement and hands-on and incorporating that body movement into your learning. Research and writing shows that students need to first develop gross motor skills before they can use those fine motor finger skills to be able to write and to be able to have academic skills. So we've really intentionally focused on things like How are we going to incorporate movement into our play? How are we going to do activities that include the whole body, which really helps our students with self-regulation. That self-regulation piece is something that students have to explicitly be taught. They have to know how to manage their body before they can move on and before they can actually learn any of those academic skills. So this focus really has helped us and helped our students learn self-regulation, self-monitoring skills, and really allowed them to be a learner, which is one of our biggest goals is for our students to be learners.
So the play workshop format is something that the team worked together, that the teachers have been working together. It follows the same format that we use. You'll see across the district in reading, writing, math, and language workshop. It's slightly modified for our youngest learners. We generally start with a 3 to 5 minute mini lesson, and we have resources available to the teachers that we'll talk about later that help guide their planning and implementation of what they want to teach. So the mini lesson starts, then the kids have 30 to 45 minutes of playtime. That varies based on is it a full day or a half day program. Minimum is 30 to 45 minutes of straight up playtime. The before and after is an addition to. And then 5 to 10 minutes at the end is the most critical to bring the class back together to talk about what was successful, what needed work, where somebody had struggles, where somebody had a big success, and learning how to discuss and talk about that and problem solve for tomorrow in what they were going to do. So Debbie's going to talk about the planning that goes into Play Workshop.
So this is an actual, so the 4K team, how do we make all these kinds of play experiences happen? How do we get them to grow in their social emotional development and in the other areas of development? We have to plan. We have to get to know our students. This is an actual planner. The 4K PLCs were gathering together and looking at different formats, different templates. And this is an actual planner that I used in February. And I'm really excited about it because it reminds me of my kindergarten and first grade work with the language workshop planners where we really deeply got into literature. And so it shows there the story that I was working on, which was In My Heart. And if you scroll a little, it shows, and the kids know, that we're going to deeply study this story, and we are going to have focused mini lessons, lots of rich discussions, guided questions, getting the kids to really think about, at this particular time, they were getting into their feelings, and feelings are validated, and all the different zones of regulation also that go with that, which we had learned the week before. Again, that scaffolding of skills. So those are our mini lessons, and then it moves into the guided discussions, and it's pretty specific, and sometimes you're not following that exactly because it's got to really fit what the kids are into and that discussion and how it's going, but this gives us a guide. This planner really helps us to be focused and planned for that social emotional development. Then it moves into after the kids play, and during play we are really focused on particular kids, and we're watching them, we're observing, we're taking notes. And so we have these reflection questions for afterwards, and this is where I find I have the most change throughout the week, because it really depends on their play experiences, how you're reflecting, what happened during play. And it might be different than what I have on my planner. So we're really taking very careful notes about development of kids and where they're at, which also helps us to know what that next planner is going to be about. And here's an actual, just an organizational piece. Everybody's got a different, everybody's got a different organizational piece. The kids really need to have choice, and they are choosing where they're going. We keep track of where they're going, and so we don't want someone kind of stuck in the same area, and that's where in a little while we're going to show you some pictures of how we change our play areas to get engagement going, to get the kids excited and trying new things. So this was just a particular theme on pizza, and Laura's gonna click that link.
It won't show.
To the, oh, it won't work, but it just, we have different activities going on that, get those social emotional skills that we're really working on to get those kids there. It's just different things like they were talking about, the different types of play. So this is a little pizzeria. It's getting them to pick some roles and to practice those roles. You have a sensory bin that changes. Again, it's really getting those kids to work in those different play experiences. Very purposeful plan.
All of the 4K teachers have resources available to them. We all have a book nook that contains read-alouds that focus on our 4K social emotional learning outcomes. We also have positive behavioral supports that we all use. That includes a visual schedule, it includes a feelings chart, quiet corner, and problem-solving solution cards. An optional is the zones of regulation. Some of the teachers did book study on that.
So we've always had the positive behavioral supports with the play workshop. What we've been able to do is help the teachers plan specifically and intentionally how is that visual schedule going to be used? And how is that going to look in my classroom? And what are my expectations from kids? The same thing with the feelings chart. We talk about feelings, we want kids to identify feelings. So there's weeks spent on talking about the different feelings, and the teachers will do various lessons incorporating the feelings chart and using the quiet corner and using zones of regulation. When I feel sad, here are my choices. And you don't just do that in one lesson, you do that with a lot of practice and planning. So thanks for listening about Play Workshop. We have seen some great gains with all of our students, and we have in this fall we are going to be doing more teaching to the teachers, more professional development on how to expand the planning and making it more intentional, and 5K will be joining in with that a little bit.
Mr. Baumgart?
You might have just begun to touch on what my question is, because there really seems to be a lot of value in what you're doing with the kids. I understand that. Yet, 4K is still optional in Waukesha, will be. I guess what I'm looking for, is there a differentiation between the kids when they get to 5K and the kids that have participated in this, or don't we know that yet, or is there a way you are looking at it?
We know it anecdotally. We're just starting to be able to dig into the data on that. But we know anecdotally from teachers, from kindergarten teachers, saying they can tell the students that have participated in 4K how their readiness skills are a little bit stronger and they're ready to do academic skills a little bit sooner. They don't have to spend as much time getting ready in the fall. But I will say I've done some looking at numbers, and we're only off about 100 kids between 4K and 5K. So we're not missing that many kids that come in to 5K. We're hitting a lot of those.
So there's about 100 kids that are not, use that vaguely, that are not getting exposed to this, but will show up in 5. Now,
Right.
I should have asked this before, because I don't think we heard. When did you start this workshop? I mean, this year, last year?
We started looking at it 3 years ago.
Oh.
We started looking at how do we wanted a format to help define why play is important and to show that we were intentionally planning it and that we were being proactive about play rather than reactive. In the past, we'd kind of let kids play and then we would teach reactively. Now we know we have to teach proactively and say, okay, how can you tell if people are sad? Now today in Play Workshop, when you see somebody who's making that face, what's something you can do? Rather than while it's happening, then say, well, she's sad, so what do you think you can do? And that flipping that has been really critical.
So we have some experience, now, and I understand anecdotally, we have some experience with kids have gone through the play workshop at 5K and some that have not, but it's a small number.
This is the first year where 4K universally did play workshop using the play planners.
Okay.
Last year, we kind of piloted it and teachers played around with it and we tried to figure out what pieces we wanted and how did we want it to look. And that's what we spent last year doing. So this is the first year we formally, November is when we kicked off the expectation that everybody would use the planner. And they work together in their PLCs.
And I think it will be very, very valuable if sometime you can come back and tell us it's working big time.
I agree. I agree.
How about that for biasing?
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Mr. Dietz.
First of all, Laura, I want to thank you and your team for being here tonight and presenting the background on Play Workshop. I really appreciate getting an update on that. Can you remind me, is 4K on every site at the elementary level?
4K, this year we have about 660 students. It's at every elementary school except for Randall STEM, and we have partnerships with 11 community partners.
And is this a program that you've pretty much developed yourself? It's not a package program that you went out and ordered. It sounds like you've
This is
designed
not a
it for
package-
Waukesha.
Yeah, this is not a package program. It's developed from the book Purposeful Play.
Right.
We've had teachers that have been able to go listen to the author talk, but it's been based on a book study and then pulling together pieces that we wanted, knowing that we wanted to start workshops so that we're giving a format to learners that will grow with them.
A lot of hard work and collaboration behind the scenes, obviously,
And
from
the
what I've seen.
4K teachers have been critical to that.
Amazing. Nice job. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Fantastic presentation, as usual. Great work. It's important work, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, this evening we have no presentation items and no action items as well. But we do have an information item. It would be Summit View Magnet School update. Amanda's very excited about this, so this should be good.
Better be.
Jeff, how you doing?
Hello, everybody.
You're here?
Sorry, I need this. Boardroom 3. I wish I would have brought 12 4K teachers with me. CNI conference room. Boardroom 3.
Yeah, boardroom.
Awesome. Thank you for allowing me to come back. I kind of invited myself several months ago, and I didn't know that I was going to be able to share the first part I'm going to share with you, but it truly is that just want to share two things with you. One is a plaque which recognizes some of you as a 2018 Magnet School of Distinction that was awarded to us last week. And then the second piece is, we didn't get a real plaque yet, this is a generic one, but Summit View has been named a nationally certified magnet school, so it's one of the first 55 magnet schools in the country to receive the national certification after a year-long kind of rigorous process of highlighting what we do in reports, providing examples and artifacts of what we do to create a magnet school. My purpose in sharing those with you tonight is actually to thank our district, our executive team, and our Board of Education that has created a district that allows schools to be innovative, allows schools to create programs that match kids' styles best, and allows schools to do things differently that we know leads to student achievement. So starting out by thanking you for that. The second piece I want to share is really just to deepen your understanding of what magnet schools are. Some of you have been with us on this journey for the last 5 or 6 years, and some of you are kind of new to the journey, so I just want to update you a little bit. As a board member of Magnet Schools of America, I need you to know that there's 4,340 magnet schools in the country, educating thousands and thousands of students. There's obviously a magnet theme that goes with magnet schools, and they can either be STEM-related, visual arts, performing arts, IB schools, which International Baccalaureate, gifted and talented, world languages. We were just coming from our most recent conference last week, and there was a police science magnet school that was participating for the first time. this year. So pretty much a theme that's going to attract students and prepare them for a future is what a magnet theme can be. There are three main characteristics that a magnet school needs to have. They need a theme-based curriculum, so they have to do things a little bit differently than their neighboring schools or their district's curriculum. Obviously, Summit View's theme-based curriculum is arts integration. Diversity would be a goal. Originally developed to overcome integration laws and rules and help support those, and to create a diverse student population in your building. And then lastly, open enrollment outside of the attendance area. To be a certified magnet school, you have to allow for students to come to your school that aren't in your attendance footprint. And Summit View, of course, does all those things. 1 out of every 15 public school students in the United States attends a magnet school, which I thought was a pretty shocking statistic, but a good one to share with you. And then 67% of magnet schools have waiting lists, and 51% of magnet schools are elementary schools in our country. I forgot to mention, I do have a kind of a brochure. Magnet Schools of America has, for the first time, released kind of a document that just educates not only citizens and community members, but it's a document that we leave with state and national legislators as we meet with them and encourage them to increase magnet school funding to make sure that they're aware that magnet schools are a public school choice option, and worked with University of North Carolina to develop this to just increase awareness and understanding. So some of these statistics come from there. Now, if you align some of the magnet school principles or Summit View details to magnet school principles, you're going to see that Summit View's student enrollment is comprised of 30% of students outside of our attendance area footprint. I think you know that Summit View is attractive to a lot of families in the district, and that 30% number is maybe a little more than you were anticipating. But so we draw from our attendance area footprint, but have been able to create room and create experiences for 30% students that are not in our attendance area footprint. The diversity of Summit View mirrors the diversity of the district. When we are completing some of our paperwork and applications, we have to monitor that if the district has a certain level of diversity, your school is either mimicking that or trying to achieve the same diversity as your district has. We have a little bit of a difference in the school district of Waukesha because we have schools that are dedicated to bilingual education. So our Hispanic population doesn't mirror the district's quite as close. We're a couple percentage points off, so it does come very, very close. But my belief is that bilingual education is what pulls some of that away from our school. How do I... He's getting anxious and wanting to connect back. What makes Summit View special is that band is offered to all 5th grade students at our school, ukulele offered to 3rd grade students, full piano lab for our 4th grade students that actually we were able to accomplish with a Waukesha Education Foundation grant, and then some fundraising in our building. We offer dance for all our kindergarten, 1st and 2nd graders, and then Epic is how we redesigned our specials within very close parameters to what all the other schools offer in terms of the 2 art, 2 music, and 2 Phi-Ed. We kind of grouped them a little differently, and the district's been nice enough to give us a little bit of the extra time to address this, but our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders have an intensive, every day a week, Epic experience, 4 to 6 times a year, depending on the special. So, for example, 3rd graders, if you have Music Epic, you're going to music every single day of the week for an hour. You don't have your 2 morning 45-minute classes. That's how we kind of capture some of the time. But you can focus on something like composing scores for movies, or our Phi-Ed Epic, our Movement Epic, does sponsoring a sporting event. The media that's involved, the logistics of teams that are selected, scheduling, promotions, all those kinds of things. So those are kind of the intensive epic experiences we offer. On the right-hand side, you'll see.
Jeff, we love all of the educational jargon you use, but what's epic?
Epic, experiential possibilities inviting creativity. We came up with it, so.
It's ours.
Not in the book,
Ethics-
it's not in a
ethics
book
is what we do.
someplace, huh?
No.
Thanks, Jeff.
On the right, again, if you're not aware of what arts integration is there's science to it. It's more than really cool shadow boxes and I say, really good tap dancers. The deep learning that goes along with it is that we have students that are meeting an objective in an art form, whether it's a visual art form, a music art form, or movement, and a content area. So your science standards that you expect the district to meet, the math standards you expect the district to hold our students accountable for. And you take that art form and you meet those dual purposes through the same lesson. So when we offer professional development and things, those are the things that we're helping teachers do, make wise choices between that art form standard and then that content area standard. This we borrow, and actually they allow us to borrow it. We have a partnership with the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., and that's how they officially define arts integration. So I think maybe Mr. Baumgart, you were there, maybe Mr. McCaffrey. When we started this journey at a board work session in Summit View's salon, we made our presentation. The board was very supportive. We had some activities, and the board president at the time said, what you see on the screen there is that, I anticipate you're going to be highly successful. I don't have a question about that, even though you've only piloted this and you're now going whole school. But my question to leave you with is, how do we know, what will we do when parents want it to continue after 5th grade? And honestly, we've kind of reached that point. We do have parents that have been with us the entire journey. We are having students who are moving into never experiencing anything other than arts integration for their education. And we start making some decisions. I'm leaving just some statistics with you, parent survey results, and they're on a handout that I left on your tables in front of you. But, sorry. I refuse glasses till I'm 50, so.
48.
I'm getting close. If some of you, INC became a K-8 school, I'd be interested in my children attending through 8th grade. And you'll see that 86%, 85.9% are highly in support of that. And then I found the integrated arts, design, and creativity instructional approach to teaching and learning important for my children and would want similar kinds of programming at the secondary level. And that also was 86% as people being interested in that kind of education for their kids to continue. We did a survey in 2016, very, very similar results to this as well. Our survey was a little more intensive in terms of questions and options and spread out the percentages a little bit more. And I know Landish has that information and probably has been shared that with you previously. But overall, I'm going to conclude our presentation with this information, kind of leaving it to you. And know that we're discussing it, we're thinking about our future. I think our students deserve it, want it. I give our 5th graders a little bit of a pep talk on one of their last few days with us and say, this isn't what you're going to find anywhere else yet, and you need to advocate for yourself as a learner that learns best through arts integration. When you're sitting in your middle school class and a teacher gives you an assignment that you think could be done a little differently, I empower them to raise their hand and say, what if I met that standard in this format? Thank you. Any questions?
Questions? Mr. Baumgart?
Yeah, you left something out.
What did I leave out?
Well, I heard that there is a Principal of the Year for District 6.
There is a regional principal of the year. The Magna Schools of America is divided into 8 regions, and they select a principal of the year from each of the regions out of those 4,300 schools. And I was very lucky to be nominated. And
Lucky hell.
Ended up winning the Region 6 Principal of the Year. So
Well, congratulations.
thank you for letting me share that. I appreciate it.
Anything else? Any other questions? Mr. Dietz?
Jeff, have you ever given a presentation to staff at Butler Middle School as to what you're doing to maybe prepare some of your students that are going to Butler?
Yeah, that's really not necessary because the principal of Butler Middle School's daughter attends Summit
Oh,
View, so
great.
he gets to see quite a bit of what we do. But we
that's
do
good.
talk, maybe not at your formal presentation. It
Just so they
certainly
have some
would,
idea where your kids are coming from.
yeah, it certainly would be nice to tap into that layer.
Right. And I just want to thank you, for your continued dedication and commitment. This isn't happening all on its own. And I know you've thanked a lot of people, but you deserve a lot of credit too. So thank you very much for your leadership and continued leadership in the district. And the results are, clear in front of us, and you're doing a great job. So keep up the good work.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mrs. Roddy?
More so of a comment, kind of echoing Mr. Dietz. Thank you so much for what you do. I personally attest to what work you and your staff are doing each day. And I will guarantee you one more student of diversity next year, so.
Great, thank you.
That's my part to you.
Appreciate your support.
Fantastic. Thank your staff for us too, Jeff.
I certainly will.
Because-
I kind of gave them the night off. They've been
Okay.
working so hard. No,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Alrighty, next is discussion items. We have one on the agenda. This is the student achievement update for North High School. Welcome.
Thank you.
We'll see how this works.
It's gonna work great.
There we go. Hey, it's working.
Okay.
Good evening, I'm Becky Newcomer. I am representing North this evening, and I will be presenting just a tidbit of information about our journey to increase student achievement. And I'm going to primarily focus on AVID and what that has done to really allow us to see some gains in a very short period of time. So we're very excited about that. This table that you're looking at right now has a lot of numbers and a lot of words on it. The number that I'd like to start with is that 88 in the first column. And that number represents the number of F grades that our 10th graders saw on their report cards in the semester, at the end of first semester in 2017. When we started looking at, we have lots of data points that allow us to get to some, analyze and get to some root cause issues in our building, but this is the one that I'm sharing with you tonight. And this was one of those pieces that allowed us to develop our theory of action. So when we look at that number 88, that was concerning to us as a SAIL team and as a faculty. And we wanted to see what we could do to change that as an indicator of student achievement. And so we put some pieces into place and really did some foundational work and focused on that 9th grade class. And now I want you to take a look at that number 48. So after a semester of intensive work, what we did was our incoming freshman class saw 48 Fs on their report card. So it's still a lot, but not that 88. So when we look at 88, that sophomore year is a tough year. When that yellow box of 48 transitioned to their 10th grade year, they still saw 50 Fs, but it wasn't that 88. And so that intensive support that we gave them freshman year allowed them to have some success their sophomore year. When we took a look at the next year coming in of freshmen, after we had a full year of really focusing on some interventions with that freshman class, the next year we saw a reduction to 28 Fs after first semester. And then when they transitioned to their sophomore year, down to 30. So if you follow the colored blocks, it shows that's the same cohort of students. So that's the data piece that we're looking at for this evening. Along with the SAIL work that we were doing, we were also entering into a time of exploring AVID in our school. And I went back and found some notes that we took when we went to our AVID First Summer Institute. And we were looking at, what are some of our issues at North, and how could AVID help us? And when we look at student achievement, it also can translate to college readiness. And we did some brainstorming and looked at why we would want to implement AVID at North. And we looked at those things in column A, Avid offers those consistency and strategies, increase in rigor, motivating the college-going atmosphere, building confidence, self-advocacy, and positive peer role models so that we could experience some of those things in the right-hand column, that B column. Success in post-secondary, all of those things that allow us to experience some higher or some increase in student achievement. So again, while we are looking at our root cause analysis in that data and then having Avid, that's the combination that we're using in order to see some growth for us. Our SAIL goals, our purposeful planning, extracurricular participation, and common expectations. The Avid system offers us something quite similar, which would be the leadership, the systems, instruction, and culture. There is some overlap, but what Avid does for us as we work with our teachers and with our students, it offers us some common vocabulary, and that's been extremely powerful for us. We can engage in specific professional development around common goals of best practices in instruction, and that is what is seeming to get us some of those gains that we're seeing, particularly in that freshman class, in that sophomore class. This is another table for you, and what this is showing is even though we have been doing some specific work, when Stephanie Harvey came into the district a few years back, we were really focusing on writing, reading, and collaboration across the content areas, but we didn't have explicit teaching and concentration among our students on that inquiry and organization piece. So when you hear of AVID, the WICR acronym, that's that writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. What we really did this past year is focus heavily on explicit teaching of inquiry and organization. And so we do monthly walkthroughs. We try to hit every single classroom in our building every month. In March of 2017, we saw 151 demonstrations of inquiry in the classroom and 187 demonstrations of organization. A year later, with almost the exact amount of walkthroughs, we're seeing a huge increase in what is happening in our classrooms. And again, I think that's really speaking to increase in our student achievement that we saw in that one of those initial slides. When we explicitly teach students how to organize, how to manage their time, how to set their goals, those are things that are showing that are helping them to see more success on their report cards and in their proficiency in the classes.
Question?
Sure.
That's a good jump from 17 to 18 there, I see that. Is that grouped mostly in the AVID group, or is that throughout the school district?
That's school-wide.
And you feel that it is distributed homogeneously across?
Without a doubt.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. We engage in what is called AVID walkthroughs. So along with our building walkthroughs, along with our EE processes, we do an AVID walkthrough, and that'll be coming up here in a moment. We work with our representative from the AVID Center who comes in, and it's a cold walkthrough. The teachers don't know that we're coming in, and we have those AVID components that those WICR strategies that we're looking for across the entire school. Our initial data in November showed that we were in the beginning phases. We just did another AVID walkthrough with our rep from the AVID Center. So a mere 3 months later, and we had made tremendous gains already in a very, very short period of time. So much so that she was encouraging us to really take very seriously looking at the metrics for becoming an AVID site of distinction. And that's extremely exciting for us because we're in our first year of official implementation. We are on an extremely sharp vertical trend line of being able to take our professional development, implement it in the classroom, and see some student results. So there are 75 schools nationwide that have achieved the site of distinction criteria, 3 in Wisconsin, and I'm hoping that we will be there very shortly. So That's not just for the AVID elective, that is school-wide, and that's what our goal is. So AVID elective is great, but the school-wide piece is what we're really striving for, to impact every single student in our building. So that was why we started this journey, and I think that we're seeing that pay off. So just to finish with this quotation, a river cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence. AVID is not something that is anything new. It's just best practices. So it's not, this silver bullet, but it allows us to be persistent, consistent, have discipline, have the same common language, and to be able to run that throughout our entire school. And that's my belief regarding why we're seeing the changes that we're seeing. So we're really proud and excited to continue this journey.
Mr. Baumgart.
Well, I don't actually have a question this time, Becky. You're probably and you know this, but I have had the opportunity periodically to uncover one of the kids in the AVID elective program and have chat with them. And it's always such a positive experience to talk to those kids, and what they're getting out of it is real. So I just want to compliment you on that. You knew that.
Thank you. And it cuts throughout our entire building, not just those.
And that's the idea between the AVID being spread, yeah. And
I think it's also important to note that as a district, our approach has been with our work in AVID that we send teams and then have a year of planning, which is what Becky is alluding to. So the why, the number of Fs, if we would have done nothing, she would have been the same. And so with a year of planning and now a year of implementation, we're starting to see those shifts, which is huge.
Ms. Landish.
Becky, you mentioned the verbs persistent, consistent, disciplined, and common language. And I just want to thank you as lead principal there at that school for really demonstrating and modeling those characteristics, both with your leadership team and the way you've built capacity with your teachers. So those verbs, although you mentioned are consistent in AVID, they're certainly consistent in your leadership actions as well. So thank you for that.
Any other questions? No? Nothing? Great job.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Love
us.
it.
Look forward to sharing more successes.
We look forward to it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Becky. Alrighty, that will conclude our meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The date of our next Teaching and Learning Committee meeting will be Tuesday, June 5th at 6 p.m. in the boardroom. Have a fantastic evening all. Thank you very much.